Tonight, as you dim the lights and snuggle under your blanket, join us on an incredible journey through time to the heart of the great Persian Empire. Have you ever wondered if what we were taught is just a small piece of the puzzle, that unseen hands have sculpted history, distorted truths, and buried knowledge that could change how we perceive the world? In this special series, we'll delve with you into the chilling mysteries of Persepolis, a city not merely burned, but a treasure trove of sealed truths. You'll witness the unveiling of transcendent architecture defying time, ancient clay tablets revealing forbidden knowledge, and a paradise garden harboring mystical energy. We will expose the mysterious assassination of Darius III and discover Alexander the Great's role not just as a conqueror, but as a tool in the hands of a supreme power, the Consul of Shadows. You'll feel every tremor beneath the earth, hear the whispers of the past, and realize that the traces of this conspiracy still exist today, weaving into every corner of the modern world. This isn't just a history lesson. It's a warning, a challenge. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any revelations, and let us know in the comments below where you're enjoying this thrilling story from. Get ready, because the truth is always more terrifying than you imagine.
Right from the first moment you step onto this land, a heavy feeling engulfs you. The air hangs thick with the dry scent of scorching sand, the biting heat of the desert. But beneath that, can you smell something else? A choking scent of smoke, mingling with the desert's hot breath. Not the smell of a recent fire, but the ghostly perfume of 1,000 years of tragedy, of souls trapped between ash and oblivion, forever haunting this place. This is Persepolis, where the majestic ruins of a golden age are now just silent stone giants. Yet they etch stories of grandeur and catastrophe, scars deeply carved into the skin of time. For over 2 millennia, this site lay forgotten, the name of the Persians fading from the world's memory, mere faint script in the Greek histories, written by their eternal enemies. Have you ever heard of cursed places, where the past clings to the present like an unshakable phantom? Persepolis is precisely such a place. The Greeks painted the Persians as barbarians, cruel and savage. But is that truly the whole story? They say the victors always write history, and you are here to uncover a different version, a truth that has been buried deep beneath layers of dust and time, like a rare gem interred in murky silt. The death of an empire, of a civilization, is never a simple event. It's like a grand murder mystery, with countless suspects and hidden motives, just waiting for a detective like you to reopen the cold case files.
This is why you're here in Persepolis, and it's no accident. A strange, debilitating fever has been tormenting Elias Vartanian, an ancient history specialist, every night, transforming his sleep into a relentless ordeal. Each time he drifts into slumber, the scene of Persepolis ablaze appears vividly, so real he can feel the searing heat on his face, hear the crackling of wood like firecrackers exploding in his ears. His health is visibly declining, his face gaunt and shadowed, yet his eyes hold a terrifying resolve, burning with an almost feverish intensity. Then the faint scars on his wrists, like ancient glyphs, begin to glow hotter, burning as if on fire, a whisper from a past life. The letter that brought him here was written on a peculiar parchment, both soft and eerily like snakeskin, with characters shimmering like gold dust. When Elias touched it, a cold shiver ran down his spine, and a faint, acrid scent, like burnt lavender, filled his nostrils. An undeniable summons, a command echoing from across millennia. He knew Persepolis was calling, not through dusty tomes, but through some inexplicable, deep-seated spiritual connection, a tether pulling at his very soul.
You and Elias, now standing together on this hallowed ground, beneath the shadow of crumbling pillars, where millennia-old secrets breathe cold air upon you. An undercurrent has operated in the shadows for millennia, not merely rewriting history, but forging a fortress of lies, concealing a truth too terrifying, too powerful for anyone but themselves to ever know. They say only these ancient walls truly know the real story of that fateful night, the night the flames devoured an entire civilization, consuming it whole like a ravenous beast. Can you feel the immense weight of thousands of years of history pressing down on your shoulders like an invisible shroud? The wind whistles through the stone crevices like the suppressed cries of wronged souls, a tragic symphony of loss and unrevealed secrets. Every breath you take here feels heavy, as if the very air still remembers the burning. You notice the dust, so fine it clings to everything, shimmering faintly in the midday sun, almost as if it's made of the same gold dust from Elias's letter. It settles on your skin, a tangible connection to the past, an ancient kiss from a buried world. As Elias explains his theories, his voice, usually calm and academic, takes on an almost desperate urgency, trembling like a taut guitar string about to snap. He points to a particularly scorched section of a wall, still radiating a faint, residual warmth, an impossible feat after so long, a ghost of a thermal signature. They say it was Alexander's drunken folly, he mutters, his eyes wide, like a man who's seen beyond the veil, whose gaze has pierced the fabric of time itself. But folly doesn't leave such a precise surgical scar on the timeline. This was an execution, meticulously planned, a narrative constructed layer by insidious layer, a venomous tale spun for the ages. You find yourself nodding, a strange resonance in your own gut, a feeling that this is no ordinary historical investigation. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion, each one bringing more tears and revealing a core darker than you ever imagined, a black hole of historical deceit. The sense of urgency is palpable, almost a living thing, buzzing around you like a swarm of angry bees, each sting a prick of impending revelation. You run your fingers along the rough, heat-cracked stone of a fallen column, feeling the echoes of immense power that once resided here, a power now dormant but not entirely extinguished, a sleeping dragon waiting to awaken. The sun beats down relentlessly, a silent witness to centuries of hidden truths, its golden rays illuminating nothing but the grand scale of destruction. Yet within this desolation, a flicker of hope, a spark of discovery ignites within you. Elias takes out a worn, leather-bound journal, Its page is brittle with age, whispering secrets with every rustle. He opens it to a page filled with strange, intricate diagrams and archaic script. "This," he whispers, his voice barely audible above the wind, thin as a desert whisper, "this is where it all began for me. Perhaps a cursed inheritance, a burden passed down through generations." He traces a finger over a sketch of a symbol you vaguely recognize. 3 serpents entwined around a torch, a motif often associated with ancient secret societies. This symbol, it's not just an emblem, it's a signature, the signature of the Council of Shadows. The very name sends a cold shiver through you, like an icy draft in a warm room, raising the hairs on your arms. The Council of Shadows. It sounds like something pulled straight from a pulp fiction novel. Yet here, under the burning sun of Persepolis, it feels horrifyingly real. Their influence, Elias postulates, stretched far beyond the battlefields, into the very ink of history books, twisting perceptions, weaving a tapestry of deception so vast, so intricate, that disentangling it feels impossible, like untangling a spider web spun by a malevolent god.
You look around again at the silent stones, the majestic skeletons of a bygone era, and for the first time you truly see them not as mere ruins, but as sentinels of forgotten knowledge, guardians of a buried truth. The air, once simply thick with sand, now feels charged with the energy of suppressed secrets, almost buzzing with whispers that only you and Elias seem destined to hear, a chorus of unseen voices. This ancient stage holds countless untold tales, each stone a silent witness to intrigue, power, and ultimately a catastrophic fall. You find yourself leaning closer as Elias continues, his voice a low hum against the backdrop of the desert's silence, painting a picture of a conspiracy so grand it makes the Greek accounts seem like children's fables. The world has been living a lie for over 2 millennia, he asserts, his eyes fixed on a distant shimmering mirage, burning with the fervor of a prophet. And we, my friend, are here to expose it, to dig up the bones of truth and assemble them, no matter how grotesque the skeleton may appear, a monstrous masterpiece of hidden history. The challenge hangs in the air, a silent dare. You feel a familiar thrill, the same one that used to pulse through your veins on your toughest investigative assignments, a mix of apprehension and exhilaration, the intoxicating scent of a fresh lead. It's a dangerous game playing detective with history, especially when powerful, shadowy entities are involved. But then again, wasn't life always a dangerous game? A tightrope walk over an abyss? You glance at Elias, his face etched with both weariness and a fierce determination. You know this journey won't be easy, that it'll lead you down rabbit holes of deceit and across barren landscapes of forgotten knowledge. But the call of Persepolis, the whisper of burned truths, is too strong to ignore. You reach out, your fingers finding the cool, smooth surface of a perfectly cut stone block, too perfect for ancient tools, a ghost of advanced technology. The desert wind, once a mournful lament, now feels like a guiding hand pushing you forward into the very heart of the buried city. This is where the real story begins,
where the ghosts of an empire demand justice, and you, my silent partner, are about to become a part of their haunting symphony. The call from the ashes isn't an invitation, it's a command, and it has just echoed into your very soul, a drumbeat against the silence of history. Do you believe in whispers from the past, secrets sealed within the earth, waiting for their day to be unearthed? The air in the archive is thick with the dust of ages, a palpable silence pressing down on you, like a heavy blanket woven from the fabric of time itself. You run your hand along a rough wooden shelf, feeling the gritty accumulation of centuries, and a jolt of coldness zips up your arm, a chill not merely from temperature, but from the sheer presence of something ancient, something that has lingered far too long. Beneath the layers of ash and sand in Persepolis, tens of thousands of small clay tablets were unearthed in the 1930s, silent witnesses to a bygone era, each a tiny tombstone of forgotten truths. As you hold one of these clay tablets, a bone-chilling cold seeps from it into your hand, a cold not of stone, but of time itself, of thousands of whispered words compressed within, like dry cacti where each thorn holds a story. You can almost feel the ancient cuneiform script, each character seemingly striving to scream something vital, a mysterious code meant only for those who dare to listen. They say these were merely ordinary receipts, mundane payrolls for the builders. But as a detective, you know that sometimes the most unassuming things hold the key to unlocking secret doors, like tiny pebbles leading to a vast buried treasure. You'll join Dr. Ilara Rostova, a leading cuneiform expert, delving into each tablet. Her gaze is as sharp as a laser beam, gliding over the complex characters. But initially, even she believed them to be nothing more than tedious records of wine, silver, and wages, a dull repetition of everyday life. However, as Elias Vartanian, his face still bearing the strain of his nocturnal visions, places a specific tablet into her hand, her entire demeanor shifts. This isn't any tablet. Its surface, despite millennia, feels strangely smooth under your fingertips, almost polished, and a faint metallic tang, like copper mixed with old dust, touches your nose, an unsettling aroma of ancient industry. Elias explains that this particular cache of tablets, found in a less explored corner of the site, had been overlooked, dismissed as less significant by earlier archaeologists. They simply categorized them as mundane administrative records, part of the extensive Persepolis fortification archive. But Elias's feverish intuition, that unshakable itch of a conspiracy theorist, told him otherwise. He'd spent countless hours poring over digital scans, his eyes blurring, searching for the minutiae that betray the grand design, the tiny anomalies that scream truth from the cacophony of normal data. Dr. Rostova, a woman whose meticulousness is legendary, a living magnifying glass of ancient texts, raises an eyebrow at Elias's intensity, but the glint of curiosity in her eyes is undeniable, a spark ignited in the depths of her academic soul. She positions the tablet under a specialized light, its surface coming alive with subtle variations, almost like a topographic map of secrets. You lean in, your breath held captive by anticipation, feeling the thrill of the hunt begin to course through your veins, a primal surge of excitement electrifying your every nerve. The first black spot appears, a curious anomaly hidden within what seems to be a standard payroll record. Elias points to a line, normally indicating a quantity of brain or silver, but here it reads, "Immense expenditure for the guardian of the 13th gate." Dr. Rostova frowns, her brow furrowing like a freshly tilled field. The 13th gate. Persepolis only had 13 known gates within its fortifications. This phrasing, it's highly unusual. But it's the accompanying symbol that truly arrests your attention and sends a shiver down your spine. A circle with 3 precisely placed dots inside it, unlike any known cuneiform character. It's too perfect, too deliberate, like a cosmic signature left on an earthly document. Elias's voice drops to a near whisper. This isn't a gate, it's a designation, a code name perhaps, or even worse, a designation for something not quite human, or a reference to some ancient technology too advanced for their time, a whisper of the impossible. You can almost feel the eyes of unseen watchers on you, a prickling sensation on your neck, as if this simple symbol has pulled back a corner of a cosmic veil. The hairs on your arms stand on end, an involuntary reaction to the creeping sense of the unknown, like tiny antennae picking up strange frequencies from beyond the stars.
Dr. Rostova, initially skeptical, her academic rigor of fortress against wild theories, begins to see the cracks in the mundane facade. Her usual composure cracks like a thin sheet of ice, revealing the abyss beneath. She scrolls through more digital scans, her fingers flying across the interface, dancing across the ages like a somber ballet. Then another peculiar entry emerges, a notation about 200 builders from the land of volcanoes, paid handsomely, having completed work on something called the Secret Temple. The chilling part? The line that follows, "and none were ever seen again." You picture them, 200 souls, vanishing into thin air, swallowed by the desert like a ghost ship by the sea, leaving no trace, no whisper. The tablet details the temple's construction from a gnarled metallic compound, a material completely unknown in ancient Persian architecture, described as having an unnervingly rough yet strangely warm texture, as if it still pulsed with a forgotten heat. Elias's eyes gleam with a mad glint of triumph, like a prospector who's just struck gold in a cursed mine. A temple, you say, or perhaps a laboratory, a facility where forbidden knowledge was forged. This isn't just a record of disappearance, my friend. It's a receipt for a purge. They were silenced, wiped from existence to protect whatever unspeakable secrets were created or contained within that secret temple. A cosmic janitorial service. The scent of sulfur strangely seems to emanate from the tablet itself, a phantom smell, a haunting perfume of the infernal.
You wonder what horrifying experiments, what unspeakable rituals might have taken place within those walls, shrouded in the silence of eternal sand, forever sealed from human eyes. As Dr. Rostova delves deeper, her fingers moving with a newfound urgency, the mundane records begin to unravel, revealing a complex tapestry of hidden messages. Her initial academic detachedness has been replaced by a growing horror, her face pale as parchment, reflecting the grim truths emerging from the clay. She points to what appears to be a series of errors or scribal mistakes in multiple tablets, seemingly random omissions or misplaced characters. But to Elias, and now increasingly to you, they form a subtle, insidious pattern, a ghostly hand writing between the lines. These aren't errors, they're a cunning cipher, a language of shadows embedded in the light. "Look here," she says, her voice hushed with a dawning horror. 1,000 jars of dark red wine. She taps the tablet. This is listed multiple times across different payrolls, but the context shifts. Sometimes it's a payment, other times it's a delivery to the inner chambers for purification. And then, in another section, disguised as a mundane inventory of supplies, we find the chilling phrase, "an unprecedented poison, swift and untraceable." Elias slams his hand on the table, the sound echoing ominously in the quiet room, a thunderclap of revelation. The wine isn't wine, my friend, it's the code for the number of people. And the poison, that's the method. This isn't about supplies. It's a detailed blueprint for a mass assassination, a death warrant written in plain sight, chillingly mundane in its execution. The air in the room suddenly feels cold, despite the desert heat outside, as if death itself has just walked through the door, leaving a frigid claw mark on the very atmosphere. You can almost taste the bitter, metallic tang of the poison on your tongue, a phantom sensation that makes your throat constrict. The implications are staggering, a tidal wave of terrifying realization. These tablets, once dismissed as mere administrative minutiae, are a smoking gun from antiquity, a silent scream from a long-lost past. They paint a picture far darker than any history book dares to suggest. Elias paces the small tent, his excitement overriding his exhaustion, his steps quick and purposeful as a predator closing in on its prey. "This isn't just an isolated incident, my friend," he declares, his voice gaining strength, a rising tide of conviction. "These black spots aren't random. They're too precise, too chillingly interconnected. The guardian of the 13th gate, the vanished builders of the secret temple, the coded poison plots, they all point to one undeniable truth. These are the fingerprints of the Council of Shadows." The name hangs in the air, no longer just a sinister concept from Elias's journal, but a tangible, terrifying reality, a shadow reaching out from the distant past. You recall the symbol, the 3 serpents entwined around a torch, now burned into your mind's eye, a brand of forbidden knowledge. "They weren't just manipulating the Greeks," Elias continues, his eyes fixed on you, boring into your very soul, seeking a partner in this terrifying dance. "They were already here, deep within the heart of the Persian Empire, pulling the strings from behind the scenes. They seeded their agents like venomous spores in every facet of Persian life, preparing the ground for the empire's fall, orchestrating every move, every betrayal, every strategic error. These tablets are the indisputable evidence, etched in clay, that the Council of Shadows has been at play for millennia. A shadow puppet master, pulling the strings of history, making empires dance to their tune. The weight of this revelation presses down on you, a burden of terrible knowledge, a crown of thorns forged from forgotten truths. You realize that what you're holding in your hands aren't just ancient documents. They are a testament to a hidden war, a long-forgotten battle for control of knowledge and power, one that continues to rage in the present day. You run your fingers over the rough surface of the clay tablet, feeling the tremors of forgotten conspiracies vibrate through your bones, a silent symphony of secrets. The silent whispers from the clay have now become a deafening roar of truth, pulling you deeper into the heart of this profound mystery. This journey has just begun, and the first clue has already turned your understanding of history on its head, shaking the very foundations of your known world, a tectonic shift in your perception of reality.
Have you ever wondered how an empire born from nomadic tribes could erect architectural marvels that defied the very limits of their era, as if built by the hands of gods themselves? A strange, overwhelming awe washes over you as you step into these ruins, an ancient energy seeming to permeate every sense. The air is thick with the dust of millennia, but deep within can you feel a breath of imprisoned grandeur. The Apadana, with its colossal columns reaching skyward like gaunt fingers stretching for heaven, or the Gate of All Nations, with its majestic Lamassu statues guarding the threshold, all stand as testaments to an astonishing technical knowledge. As you visualize the intricate carvings on the friezes, you feel a strange, disquieting wonder, as if standing before a superior intellect, a vision that transcends space and time, a silent dialogue with the infinite. Each stone slab isn't merely silent. They seem to be arranged in a mysterious order, every line and curve holding a purpose inexplicable by human knowledge, an architectural enigma waiting to be deciphered. They say it was due to the genius of King Darius the Great and his architects, but was there an unseen hand guiding their work, a group possessing secrets of materials, mathematics, even the manipulation of energy that we still can't comprehend? Only these ancient walls truly know if these techniques weren't entirely developed by the Persians themselves, but rather transmitted from a mysterious, unknown source, a whisper from a forgotten star. What allowed a civilization to achieve such extraordinary feats in such a short span of time, a meteoric rise that defies logic? You and Elias stand at the foot of the great staircase, its sweeping ascent to the Apadana, so gradual, so perfectly proportioned, it almost feels like walking on air. The sheer scale of it swallows you whole, making you feel impossibly small, a grain of sand against a mountain of ambition. Elias, his gaunt face etched with an intensity that seems to draw energy from the very stones, runs a hand along one of the perfectly fitted blocks. "Look at this," he murmurs, his voice barely a whisper, yet it resonates with the gravitas of history. No mortar, just perfectly cut stone fitted with impossible precision. How? The tools of their era, by all accounts, were primitive. Bronze, iron, nothing that could achieve such clean, sharp angles on hard granite. It's like finding a microchip in a Roman ruin, a glaring anomaly screaming defiance at established history.
You lean in, your fingers tracing the edge of the stone, and you feel a strange, unsettling smoothness, like glass, yet undeniably stone. It's almost as if the surface has been polished by some unknown force, or perhaps sheared with a technology we can only dream of. The air, though warm, carries a faint, almost imperceptible metallic tang, a ghost of ancient machinery, a fragrance of forgotten metals. Elias gestures towards the immense colonnade of the Apadana, where towering columns, like petrified trees reaching for the heavens, pierce the sky. These columns, he explains, each stands over 60 feet tall, weighing hundreds of tons. How were they transported from distant quarries and raised into place without a single visible flaw, without the colossal machinery we'd need today? The official explanation speaks of ramps and brute force, but that's like saying a pebble built a mountain. It simply defies the laws of physics as we understand them. It defies common sense. It defies logic. It defies everything we've ever been taught about human capabilities in that era, a grand illusion masquerading as history. He points to faint, almost invisible lines on a column base, visible only at a certain angle under the harsh sunlight. These aren't natural striations. They are marks, like incredibly precise laser cuts, surgical incisions on the hardest rock, the signature of a tool far beyond their time. Imagine a beam of light slicing through stone like a hot knife through butter, leaving no debris, no friction marks, only pure, unadulterated precision. This isn't just advanced engineering. This is alien craftsmanship, knowledge bestowed or perhaps stolen, a cosmic blueprint materialized on Earth. You can almost hear the high-pitched hum of an ancient, impossible cutting tool, a phantom sound vibrating in your very bones, the lost symphony of a forgotten world.
As you move deeper into the ruins, Elias leads you to an inconspicuous section near the treasury, a place rarely visited by tourists. He pulls out a small, portable UV lamp from his bag, flicking it on. Under its eerie purple glow, faint symbols appear on seemingly blank stone panels, geometric patterns, intricate designs that seem to shift and reconfigure. "These are not decorative," Elias whispers, his voice filled with reverence and a touch of fear. "They are schematics, equations, possibly star maps or complex chemical formulae, patterns that resonate with quantum physics, things that should not exist here, not now, not ever. They appear only under specific light frequencies, as if the builders wanted to hide them in seemingly blank stone panels, a whispered secret etched in stone for those with eyes to see. A clandestine message from the cosmos." He touches a symbol resembling a series of interlocking circles. Some historians dismiss these as primitive astronomical charts, but look closer. The ratios, the specific angles, they speak of a fundamental understanding of the cosmos, of energy fields, of vibrational frequencies, concepts that didn't emerge in Western science for another 2 millennia. This is the blueprint for something unimaginable, something that could reshape the very fabric of our understanding, a key to unlock untold cosmic power. A cold dread creeps into your stomach, a knot of fear tightening with each new revelation, like discovering the ancient Egyptians had blueprints for spaceships. The feeling of being watched intensifies, a subtle chill down your spine, as if unseen eyes are studying your every reaction. Then Elias shows you another discovery, even more unsettling. Beneath the floor of a ruined guardhouse, a section of the ground feels oddly hollow. He produces a small, specialized, ground-penetrating radar device. The screen blips with a complex network of lines. This, he explains, is not a natural formation. These are tunnels. Not for drainage, not for storage. They are aerodynamic channels, spiraling downward, too narrow for human passage in most places. Some theories suggest underground water channels, but the patterns defy logic. They seem to flow with a deliberate, unnatural purpose, like the veins of a living, breathing machine. He points to a particular cluster of lines that converge directly beneath the Apadana. My theory, he says, his eyes gleaming like twin embers in the deepening twilight, a serpent's hiss in the desert silence. These are energy conduits, a network designed to harness some unseen force, perhaps from the earth itself, or from the secret temple we found hints of in the clay tablets. A vein system for an ancient, colossal machine built right beneath the very heart of the empire. The implications are chilling. Persepolis wasn't just a ceremonial capital, it was a massive power station, or perhaps a prison for a colossal, unfathomable force, a dormant beast of unimaginable power. You can almost feel a faint hum beneath your feet, a vibration that seems to resonate with the very air, a symphony of forgotten power vibrating through the bones of the earth itself. So, who were these architects, you ask, the words feeling inadequate for the scale of the mystery, mere whispers against a hurricane of revelation. Elias turns to you, his face grave. Not merely human, or rather humans guided by something else. I call them the invisible architects. They were the true masterminds behind Persepolis's impossible feats. They possessed knowledge far beyond what was available to any known civilization of that era. And they weren't working for Darius or Xerxes out of loyalty. They were working for the Council of Shadows. The name, first introduced in the last part of this story, now hangs in the air, weighted with a new terrifying significance, a heavy cloak woven from dread. The Council, Elias explains, his voice a low conspiratorial whisper, a serpent's hiss in the desert silence. They didn't just manipulate political events. They controlled the very flow of knowledge, shaping civilizations from behind the scenes. They were the unseen sculptors of civilization, molding empires like clay in their hands. They saw something in the early Persian Empire, perhaps its vast resources, its strategic location, or a certain energetic resonance with the land that made it ideal for building this grand machine. Persepolis was their laboratory, their power plant, their monument to concealed power, a sleeping brain waiting to be activated. You can almost see their shadowy figures moving through the construction sites, overseeing every impossible cut, every perfectly placed stone, their faces hidden by the darkness of their intentions, ghosts directing mortal hands. But then, Elias's expression darkens further, a storm cloud gathering over his features. And what happens to architects once their masterpiece is complete, once their secrets are embedded within stone? He pauses, letting the question hang in the air, heavy and full of unspoken dread, a silent bell tolling a grim warning. They become a liability. The Council of Shadows doesn't tolerate loose ends. Once Persepolis was finished, once its hidden mechanisms were locked into place, Once the knowledge was fully imprinted into the very fabric of the city, these invisible architects vanished. Not merely scattered, not just retired, they were systematically hunted down and eliminated, every last one of them. It was a purge of knowledge, a ritualistic cleansing of intellect, burying the architects along with their impossible secrets, cementing them within the very walls of the structures they created. It was an act of deliberate amnesia, making sure that no one could ever replicate their work, ensuring that the truth remained buried under the ashes of ambition, a monstrous erasure from the annals of history. Each perfect cut in the stone, each impossible alignment became a silent tombstone for the genius that created it. The very foundations of Persepolis aren't just stone, they are coffins of brilliance, sealing away knowledge that could, perhaps, unlock wonders, or perhaps unleash horrors. The wisdom they possessed was deemed too dangerous, too destabilizing for humanity to wield, a forbidden fruit from the tree of forbidden knowledge, a venomous bite of enlightenment. This was more than just a power play. It was a surgical strike against enlightenment, designed to keep humanity in a perpetual state of ignorance, dependent on the crumbs of knowledge doled out by the council. It's a chilling thought that the grandest monument of a powerful empire was simultaneously its greatest secret and its deadliest trap, built to consume the very minds that birthed it. You can almost hear their screams echoing through the silent tunnels beneath your feet, a ghostly chorus of the silenced, a symphony of despair. This story isn't just about the fall of a city, it's about the deliberate suppression of human potential, a cosmic censorship event that shaped our world. The architectural brilliance of Persepolis, therefore, is not a celebration of human achievement, but a haunting reminder of what was taken from us, a monument to stolen truth, a silent elegy for lost genius.
Have you ever heard of gardens existing only in legends? Places where every dream could come true, where life and death intertwine in a mysterious dance. The Persians created the world's first paradise gardens, not just as places of relaxation, but as symbols of the king's power, his ability to control nature, a resounding declaration of their dominion over the world. As you inhale the faint, acrid scent mixed with the freshness of herbs and a strange metallic tang, as if the very air here is electrified, you'll feel the hairs on your arms stand on end, an invisible energy flowing through earth and stone, a sensation both mesmerizing and terrifying. You'll wonder if there's more to it. Is this merely a garden? Or is it a living machine, a mysterious energy hub, a pulsating heart buried beneath verdant leaves? They say that within these gardens, irrigated by complex canal systems, a mystical energy or knowledge was hidden. King Cyrus the Great himself gardened not merely for pleasure, but for a deeper purpose, a ritual connecting with that invisible force, a communion with powers far beyond human comprehension. You stand now in the desolate remains of what was once Persepolis's most magnificent paradise garden, a sprawling expanse where whispers of former glory still cling to the parched earth. It's hard to imagine the vibrant tapestry of life that once thrived here. But Elias, his eyes alight with a renewed fervor, helps you paint the picture. These weren't just pretty places, he explains, kicking at a pile of crumbling bricks.
The Persian paradisa, from which we get our word paradise, were meticulously designed ecosystems, microcosms of cosmic order. Every plant, every water channel, every path had a symbolic meaning, a deliberate purpose. But beyond the aesthetics, beyond the philosophical, there was something else, something far more tangible and terrifyingly practical. He kneels, picking up a handful of dry, dusty soil. You can feel the ghost of a cool moisture beneath your fingertips, a phantom echo of flowing water. Imagine this, Elias continues, rising and gesturing broadly at the barren landscape. A colossal bioelectrical battery disguised as a garden. Your eyebrows shoot up. He points to remnants of intricately laid stone channels, now cracked and choked with sand. The water flowing through these canals wasn't just for irrigation, it was a conductor. And the plants, the records we found in other, even more obscure tablets speak of specific flora, now extinct or genetically altered, cultivated here. Certain species, rare and difficult to grow, were precisely placed in geometric patterns. These weren't just decorative trees or flowers, they were living conduits, capable of generating powerful bioelectrical impulses or releasing consciousness-altering gases. Think of the ginkgo biloba, but amplified 1,000-fold. The garden was in essence a massive organic circuit board, humming with a barely perceptible ethereal energy. You can almost hear the faint crackle of unseen power, a primordial hum in the very air around you. Elias then leads you to a sunken area, once likely a pool or reservoir, but now just a dry basin. He points to the intricate carvings along the basin's edge, depicting flowing water and stylized plants, but also curious spiraling patterns that resemble fractal geometry. The water in this system, he explains, was not ordinary. It was sourced from a hidden underground spring connected to a secret mine. We found obscure references in a few of the clay tablets to lapis lazuli-tinged minerals or the iridescent blue dust. When this particular mineral, likely a crystalline compound, dissolved in the carefully channeled water, it created a charged solution. When activated by specific frequencies, perhaps through chanting or even the resonant vibrations from the secret temple's compound metal, this water would release an astonishing burst of pure, raw energy. An energy that could directly affect the human mind, enhancing strength, sharpening perception, even prolonging life. The entire garden, my friend, was a psycho-spiritual energy generator, a living machine designed to tap into the very essence of consciousness, a forbidden wellspring of power. A faint, almost imperceptible hum seems to reverberate from the ground beneath your feet, a ghostly resonance of ancient machinery. You feel a tingling sensation on your skin, as if tiny electric currents are dancing over your flesh.
So, if this garden was such a source of power, why isn't it still humming? You ask. The words a rough whisper against the wind. Elias's gaze turns grim, his jaw tightening. This brings us to Alexander. The history books paint him as a drunken conqueror, burning Persepolis in a fit of rage after a night of revelry, a furious god fueled by wine. But that's too simplistic, too convenient, a flimsy curtain hiding a deeper truth. Alexander was many things, but not a mindless destroyer, not when there was something of such immense strategic value to be exploited. No. His act was deliberate. It was a sealing ritual, a ceremonial act of destruction orchestrated by the Council of Shadows. The name hangs in the air, heavy and dark. They knew the true power of this garden. They understood its potential for both immense good and unimaginable destruction. They also knew that Alexander, in his youthful ambition and thirst for glory, was a perfect tool, a sharp blade in their unseen hand. He believed he was simply conquering a rival empire, but he was actually performing a meticulously planned operation for the Council of Shadows. The fire wasn't random destruction. It was a calculated act of neutralization, a sacrificial pyre to prevent this extraordinary power from falling into the wrong hands, or more likely, into anyone's hands but their own. The Council wasn't protecting humanity from this power, my friend, Elias asserts, his voice now laced with a bitter edge, a raw nerve exposed to the harsh desert sun. They were protecting their monopoly on it. They couldn't control it directly in its activated state, or perhaps they deemed it too volatile for widespread use, so they ordered its destruction, its deactivation, its burial under ash and oblivion. The burning of Persepolis wasn't just the end of an empire. It was the forcible sealing of a world-changing energy source, a deliberate act of cosmic sabotage. Imagine the knowledge, the power that would have transformed humanity if this secret had been allowed to flourish. Immortality, unimaginable strength, control over natural forces, it was all within reach. But the Council preferred a world where knowledge was rationed, where power remained in the shadows, wielded by their hidden hands, a puppet show where humanity danced on their strings. You look out at the devastated landscape, the dry, cracked earth seeming to hum with a silent, mournful energy. The story of Persepolis, once a simple tale of ancient empire and conquest, has fractured, revealing layer upon layer of conspiracy. The burning fire now seems less an act of barbarian rage and more like a sacred, terrifying ritual, a cleansing flame that consumed truth along with timber. The Paradise Garden, once a symbol of life and control, now feels like a giant tomb, interred with secrets that could redefine existence. Elias takes a deep, shuddering breath, as if inhaling the ghost of forgotten power. "The call from the ashes, my friend," he says, his voice softer, yet imbued with immense significance, is not just a call for justice for the vanished souls or for the hidden architects. It's a call to reactivate what was lost, to find a way to unseal the garden, to unlock its secrets once more. But be warned, he adds, his eyes meeting yours, a serious glint in their depths. The Council of Shadows will not allow their secrets to be disturbed easily. They sealed this garden with fire. They will protect it with far deadlier means. This isn't just a historical investigation anymore. It's an excavation of forbidden power, and we are standing on the very fuse of a cosmic time bomb. The next steps in this journey will take us to places where few have dared to tread, places where the veil between worlds is thin and the shadows are very, very real. The scent of scorched earth and metallic tang lingers in the air, a potent reminder of the dormant power that lies beneath, patiently waiting to be awakened.
Do you believe that nomads, seemingly with nothing to lose, are the very keepers of the most terrifying secrets? Those who can see through the veil of deception. Despite building magnificent cities, the Persians maintained a nomadic lifestyle, constantly moving along mysterious trails. The Greeks scoffed at this, calling it weakness, a sign of barbarism. But what if this very unsettled way of life created a secret network of communication and intelligence gathering that spanned the empire? A network so sophisticated even powerful enemies couldn't detect it. A spider web of whispers woven across the desert sands. In the bustling chaos of the market, you can hear seemingly meaningless chatter, sharp haggling voices, but they are delivered with a strange rhythm, like codes meant only for trained ears and watchful eyes. You'll see glances exchanged, laden with unspoken meaning, and feel the tension beneath the peaceful facade of the bazaar, a thin curtain concealing sinister plots. The grand bazaar of Persepolis assaults your senses the moment you step into its swirling kaleidoscope of colors, sounds, and smells. The press of bodies is a tangible weight, pushing and pulling you in every direction, a human current flowing through ancient veins. The air is a thick, intoxicating perfume of exotic spices, roasted meats, and pungent leathers, mingling with the sharp tang of sweat and unwashed humanity. Overlapping cries of merchants hawking their wares, fresh dates, sweet as honey, silks from the east, feel the touch of paradise, form a chaotic symphony, a deafening wall of sound that makes Elias's low voice almost impossible to discern. He has to pull you firmly into a narrow, shadowed alleyway where the clamor softens to a dull roar, a distant thunder of commerce. They called it weakness, Elias mutters, his voice gaining clarity in the sudden relative quiet. The Persian preference for tents over permanent homes, for constant movement. But it was their greatest strength, their most formidable weapon. It was their information network, a living, breathing internet of whispers, a neural network spanning deserts and mountains. You find yourself holding your breath, a sudden electric current tingling along your spine as the true implications of his words begin to sink in. Your heart quickens its pace, a drumbeat of dawning realization. Imagine this, Elias continues, his eyes scanning the faces of passers-by in the main thoroughfare, visible through the alley's mouth. A messenger system that operated entirely off the grid, no official couriers, no vulnerable roads, just a constant, fluid movement of people, merchants, shepherds, artisans, each carrying a fragment of the larger picture. Every caravan was a mobile data packet, every oasis a server, and every bazaar, like this one, a hub of information exchange, a giant open-air rumor mill powered by secrets. He points to a group of men gathered around a tea stall, their voices low, their movements casual. They aren't just discussing prices for wool, my friend. They're exchanging intelligence. A subtle nod, a specific phrase, a seemingly innocent trade of trinkets. These are the keys to unlocking encrypted messages, the invisible threads of a vast espionage web. A silent language understood only by the initiated. You observe a fleeting exchange of glances between a robed merchant and a cloaked figure, a flicker of understanding that passes between them so swiftly it's almost imperceptible, a conspiratory spark in the teeming crowd.
As you watch, Elias reaches into the folds of his garment and pulls out a small pen-like device. He points to an elderly merchant unrolling a vibrant Persian rug, its intricate patterns a riot of color, a masterpiece of woven secrets. That rug, he whispers, is more than just a piece of decor. These Persian carpets were renowned for their beauty, but their patterns often held hidden meanings. Some were coded maps, guiding routes through treacherous territories or indicating safe houses. Others were fractal geometric models, ancient mathematical formulae disguised as art, or even sound frequencies designed to unlock hidden chambers beneath the very ground we stand on. These weren't random designs, they were blueprints for secrets, passed down through generations, a textile library of forbidden knowledge. He flicks on his device, shining a UV light across the rug's surface. Faint threads within the intricate patterns, invisible to the naked eye, glow with an eerie luminescence, a spectral glow against the vibrant dyes. You lean closer, your breath catching in your throat. For a fleeting moment, you swear you see not just glowing threads, but a rapid sequence of shimmering characters, like a burst of static on an old television screen, forming a pattern that instantly dissolves, leaving you only with a vague sense of a complex image, a ghost of information. Then, a small, almost imperceptible image of a coiled serpent, the emblem of the Council of Shadows, flickers into view, a venomous brand on the fabric of history. A cold shiver traces its way down your spine, as if you've just glimpsed the skeleton beneath the skin of reality, a peek behind the curtain of existence. And this, Elias says, producing a small obsidian ring from his other hand, its dark surface reflecting the harsh sunlight, engraved with the familiar symbol of the Council of Shadows, the intertwined serpents around a torch. This isn't just a ring, it's a key, a master key to this entire network. When held against specific symbols or within certain areas, it can unlock hidden compartments, activate dormant mechanisms, or even reveal truths embedded in the very fabric of reality. It's an ancient piece of technology disguised as a mere adornment, a wolf in sheep's clothing of antiquity. You can feel a subtle hum emanating from the ring in Elias's hand, a faint vibration that resonates with the deep, unsettling power, a ghostly whisper of unseen forces calling out to you, an almost irresistible urge to reach out and touch it, to feel the cool, dark stone against your skin, to see if it might unlock some forgotten recess of your own mind. Elias, as if sensing your unspoken desire, glances at a small, weathered stone pillar at the alley's edge. He gently touches the obsidian ring to a barely visible carving on its surface. For a split second, you hear a faint click, almost like a lock engaging, and the air around the pillar seems to shimmer before settling back to normal. Nothing visible changes, yet you feel a distinct shift, a subtle cooling of the air, as if a momentary portal has opened and closed, a fleeting glimpse into another dimension.
The merchants themselves were often double agents, Elias continues, his voice lowering, a conspiratorial murmur against the desert breeze. They weren't loyal to the King of Kings, nor to any single faction. They were information brokers, selling secrets to the highest bidder, their allegiances as shifting as the desert sands, betraying loyalties as easily as they traded spices. Or, more sinisterly, they were serving a third power, the Council of Shadows. He gestures around the bustling market, his eyes narrowed, as if dissecting every face for signs of hidden agendas. Notice the curious coincidences, the sudden, inexplicable wealth of certain merchant families coinciding perfectly with crucial Persian military defeats.
the sudden, inexplicable, unlucky events that always seem to cripple Persian logistics before a major battle. This wasn't just bad luck, my friend. This was orchestrated chaos, a carefully choreographed dance of deception, a symphony of engineered failures. The Council was using this very network, this lifeline of the empire, to systematically undermine it from within, preparing the ground for Alexander's invasion. A subtle poison, slowly weakening the mighty lion. The metallic tang in the air seems to sharpen, a bitter taste of betrayal on their tongue, a phantom flavor of deceit. You feel a growing surge of anger, a hot wave of frustration at the realization of how easily history can be manipulated, how fragile the truth can be. This nomadic lifestyle, this intricate network, was a double-edged sword, Elias concludes, his gaze sweeping over the unsuspecting faces of the crowd, each face a potential mask for a hidden agenda. It allowed the Persians to maintain control over their vast and diverse empire, to gather intelligence from every corner, to move armies and resources with surprising efficiency. But it also made them incredibly vulnerable. It was a silent virus, operating within their own system, turning their strength into their ultimate weakness. The very arteries that nourished the empire were being poisoned from within, a subtle hemorrhage, unseen until it was too late, a slow, agonizing bleed to death.
The Council didn't need to infiltrate Persepolis directly, my friend, Elias asserts, his voice now a low, chilling whisper, a secret breathed directly into your ear. They had a far more insidious approach. They simply corrupted the existing channels, whispered in the ears of the greedy, subtly manipulated the flow of information, twisting truths into potent lies. This vast, informal network became their eyes and ears, their hands and feet, and eventually their dagger in the back of the Persian Empire. They controlled the flow of goods, the whispers of dissent, the strategic movements of troops. Every seemingly innocent transaction, every coded rug, every whispered secret was a piece of their grand mosaic, a step in their long game. They were puppeteers pulling invisible strings, making the mighty Persian Empire dance to a tune of its own destruction, a tragic ballet of imperial collapse. A sudden, suffocating pressure descends upon you, a feeling of being watched, of being caught within a web spun by unseen hands. You glance nervously around the alley, certain that at any moment a pair of eyes will meet yours, revealing their sinister knowledge. You stand there amidst the clamor, suddenly seeing the bazaar not as a place of commerce, but as a vast, hidden battlefield, a silent war being waged in plain sight. The vibrant colors seem to dull. The cheerful sounds morph into a cacophony of hidden meaning. The casual glances exchanged by merchants now seem loaded with dark intent, each a potential harbinger of doom. You realize that the downfall of Persepolis wasn't a sudden, thunderous collapse, but a slow, calculated implosion, meticulously orchestrated by unseen forces, a slow-motion train wreck set in motion by shadowy engineers.
The whispers from the clay tablets, the impossible architecture, the hidden energy sources, they all converge here, in the dust and sweat of the marketplace. This story, you realize, is a chilling testament to the insidious power of information and how it can be weaponized against even the mightiest of empires. The desert's howl suddenly takes on a new meaning, no longer just the sound of wind, but the mournful lament of an empire betrayed from within, a ghost wailing its sorrow across the sands. What other secrets lie hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to finally see the patterns woven into the fabric of our world? The next journey promises to delve even deeper into the very heart of this shadowy organization, into the very lair of the serpent. Have you ever felt something was off with what you learned in history books, as if a piece was missing or deliberately misplaced? Persian history, mostly recorded by the Greeks, their sworn enemies, painted them as barbaric, cruel savages. That laughter isn't just an echo, it clings to you, a cynical cackle mocking the truth. The laughter of those who successfully twisted humanity's memory, like a madman redrawing another's portrait to his liking. But the reliefs at Persepolis tell a different story, one of peace, of tolerance, of a vast multicultural empire thriving under a benevolent hand. So what is the truth? Who lied and why? This conspiracy theory suggests that not only the Greeks, but the Council of Shadows itself, the true holders of power, had a hand in manipulating these records. Their goal wasn't just to eliminate Persian philosophy. It was possibly to suppress a specific social model or a scientific knowledge of Persia that they deemed dangerous or incompatible with the world order they wished to establish, an order built on lies and control, a grand illusion for the masses. The air in the Persepolis Museum's archive feels heavy, not just with dust, but with the weight of untold stories. You stand before a display of reconstructed reliefs, the intricate carvings on the stone depicting a vibrant tapestry of peoples from across the empire, all bringing offerings to the king, depicted not as a conqueror, but as a benevolent unifier. Their faces show respect, not fear. "Look at this," Elias says, his voice a low hum, a current of intensity in the quiet room. The Greeks describe the Persians as despots, their empire built on slavery and fear. Their histories, like those of Herodotus and Xenophon, paint a picture of cruelty and lavish excess. But then you come here, to the very heart of the empire, and these stones tell a different tale. They speak of a diverse, tolerant society, where different cultures coexisted, where local customs were respected. It's a stark contradiction, like two separate realities vying for dominance. You trace the lines of a relief showing an Armenian delegation, their dignified posture contradicting every Greek slander you've ever read. A faint scent of old parchment and ozone seems to prick your nostrils, the ghostly smell of burning libraries and forgotten truths. Elias leans closer to the display, his finger hovering over a carving of Persian soldiers. The official narrative is that the Greeks, champions of democracy, bravely fought off the tyrannical Persians, a simple, heroic tale. But what if that narrative was carefully crafted, not just by Greek bias, but by a far more powerful entity? He turns to you, his eyes piercing, like twin lasers cutting through the layers of deception. The Council of Shadows, my friend. They didn't just manipulate political events or technology. They were the master architects of history itself, the unseen hand that rewrote the past. Their goal was to control the collective consciousness, to shape humanity's understanding of its own journey. And the Persians, with their philosophy of tolerance, their advanced science, their unique social model, were a threat to the Council's vision of a hierarchical, controlled world. The Persian model, where knowledge was shared, where cultures blended, was too dangerous. It offered a path to enlightenment, a path to true freedom, a beacon of hope that needed to be extinguished. You feel a chill, a cold dread creeping into your stomach, a knot of unease tightening with each new revelation. It's like discovering that the very ground beneath your feet is not solid, but shifting sand, controlled by unseen currents. And how do you erase a philosophy? Elias asks, a rhetorical question hanging heavy in the air. You don't just conquer an army, you destroy its memory. You burn its libraries. And the library of Persepolis, its destruction wasn't an accident. It wasn't Alexander's drunken folly. It was a calculated, ceremonial act, a sacrifice of information, a ritualistic immolation of truth. He gestures around the silent archive, as if the ghosts of burning scrolls still writhed in the air. This wasn't just about destroying texts, it was about severing humanity from its own history, from alternative ways of thinking, from knowledge that could challenge the Council's narrative. Imagine the scrolls that contain details of the invisible architects, the precise schematics of the Paradise Garden, the full extent of the nomadic spy network, all gone, reduced to ash, a funeral pyre for forbidden knowledge. You can almost smell the smoke, a phantom scent of burning parchment and smoldering intellect, making your eyes sting. The sheer scale of this deliberate historical lobotomy is staggering.
The destruction was so thorough, so complete, Elias continues, his voice strained, that it almost seems supernatural, as if the fire itself was guided, an intelligent flame designed to consume specific truths. It was a purification ritual for them, an act of erasure. The burning of Persepolis wasn't just the end of an empire. It was the beginning of a long, dark age of historical distortion, where the narrative was rewritten to suit the Council's agenda, a twisted scripture for a new dark age. They wanted to ensure that no one would ever question their authority, that no alternative would ever arise. By presenting the Persians as barbarians, they justified their own ruthless tactics, painting themselves as the saviors of civilization, a wolf in sheep's clothing donning a savior's cloak. But they weren't entirely successful, Elias states, a glint of defiance in his eyes. He carefully pulls out a small, charred fragment from a protective case. It's a piece of parchment, barely larger than your thumb, almost entirely consumed by fire, yet holding on to its last threads of existence, a fragile whisper from a violent past. This was found years ago, tucked away in a remote part of the ruins, overlooked by conventional archaeologists. It's a miracle it survived. He carefully holds it up. Even through the charring, you can see faint, shimmering characters on its surface, almost imperceptible, like stars struggling to shine through a smoke-filled sky. They seem to shift and glow with an inner light, a faint pulse of ancient energy. These aren't ordinary markings, Elias whispers, his voice filled with reverence and urgency. They appeared to be a mixture of ancient Persian and something else entirely, a script that resembles some of the symbols we saw on the architectural schematics in the treasury. And look here. He points to a section that seems to glow a fraction brighter. It speaks of rulers from the West, a direct reference to the Greeks and, implicitly, Alexander. Then, a chilling phrase, energy crystals from the Paradise Garden, a clear link to what we discussed. And finally, the symbol that ties it all together, the sign of the 3 serpents entwined around a torch, the very emblem of the Council of Shadows. You stare at the fragment, its small size belied by the immense weight of the revelations it carries. This isn't just an ancient artifact, it's a smoking gun from antiquity, a direct, undeniable link between the destruction of Persepolis, the hidden power of its gardens, and the sinister machinations of the Council of Shadows. The cold dread that settled in your stomach earlier now solidifies into a hard knot of determination. This isn't just a historical conspiracy, it's a living, breathing threat, one that has shaped the world for millennia, a parasitic entity feeding on forgotten truths. The realization that this piece of evidence survived the inferno, that it exists as a testament to the Council's deception, is both a miracle and a terrifying warning. It means their influence is far-reaching, far older than anyone could imagine. The very history you've been taught, the foundations of your understanding of the world, are nothing more than an elaborate, meticulously constructed lie. This burnt scrap of parchment, Elias states, his voice ringing with a new clarity, is not just a clue, it's a challenge. It's proof that their attempts to erase history, to control the narrative, were not entirely successful. There are still fragments of truth buried deep, waiting to be unearthed. And that means the fight isn't over. The call from the ashes isn't just a lament, it's a battle cry. It's a demand for the real story to be told, for the truth to finally emerge from the shadows. Our next journey will take us deeper into the heart of their manipulation, into the very mechanisms they use to rewrite our past and control our present. The faint scent of smoke seems to cling to your clothes, a constant nagging reminder of the lies that still permeate the air, a silent witness to a millennia-long deception.
Have you ever witnessed lavish parties where wine flows like rivers and secrets are whispered in the dark? Where promises and conspiracies are woven into laughter and music? The pungent smell of wine mixes with the metallic tang of blood and the acrid smoke of destruction, creating a sickening concoction, a scent of death and madness, like a macabre funeral feast disguised as opulence. The savage laughter of the drunkards, the screams of horror, and the crackling roar of the fire create a symphony of destruction, a perfectly staged play, a drama where the winner was predetermined. They say Alexander the Great ordered the burning of Persepolis during a drunken feast, but was it merely the impulsive act of a drunkard, a moment of youthful madness, a fleeting shadow of a thought? Or was it a pre-planned operation, a perfect excuse to destroy a symbolic city without leaving a trace of a more complex conspiracy, a staged performance to blind the world? The air in the grand hall of Persepolis still seems to hum with the echoes of that fateful night, a spectral vibration that prickles your skin. You stand amidst the charred remains of colossal columns, their once proud surfaces now blackened and fractured, skeletal fingers reaching towards a vengeful sky. Elias gestures to the vast open space that would have been filled with revelers, their laughter now replaced by the whisper of the wind. Imagine it, he urges, his voice painting a vivid, horrifying picture.
The feasting hall, a blaze of golden lamplight, choked with the scent of roasted meat, sweet wine, and exotic perfumes. Macedonian soldiers flushed with victory and drink, mingling with the last vestiges of the Persian court. The air thick with boasts and drunken toasts. It was a spectacle of excess, a wild bacchanalian dance on the grave of an empire. You can almost hear the raucous clamor, the clinking of gold goblets, the off-key strains of a flute. And at the center of it all, Elias continues, leading you to a particularly scorched section of the floor, was Alexander, drunk, triumphant, perhaps even a little bored with his unparalleled success. The official story, recorded by Plutarch and Arrian, speaks of a courtesan, Thais, who in a moment of drunken frenzy urged Alexander to burn the palace, a symbolic act of vengeance for the Persian invasion of Greece, a pyre for ancient grievances, a spontaneous act fueled by passion and wine, a spark igniting an inferno of vengeance. He kicks at a loose piece of charred marble, but does that truly make sense? A man who meticulously planned every military campaign, who cultivated an image of cultured brilliance, suddenly loses all control over a woman's drunken whim? It's a convenient narrative, too neatly packaged to be entirely true, a flimsy alibi for a calculated crime. You can feel the heat radiating from the scorched stone, a lingering phantom of that ancient blaze. No, my friend, Elias asserts, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Thais was more than just a dancer or a courtesan. She was a key, a tool in the hands of the Council of Shadows, a perfectly timed detonator. She was placed there in Alexander's inner circle for this very purpose. Her passion, her drunken rage, was a meticulously rehearsed performance designed to push Alexander past the point of no return. Her eyes, described by some as sparkling with mischief, I believe were cold, calculating, devoid of genuine emotion, like a serpent's gaze before it strikes. He pauses, letting the implication sink in. The council needed a justifiable reason to destroy Persepolis, to seal away the Paradise Garden's energy, to erase the knowledge within the library without drawing suspicion to their own involvement. Alexander's drunken outburst provided the perfect cover, a convenient smokescreen for a deeper agenda. You suddenly recall a similar chilling detachment you've seen in the eyes of certain powerful individuals, a terrifying coldness beneath a veneer of charm.
Think about it, Elias urges, pressing his point home. The Council of Shadows couldn't just overtly destroy such a symbolic and technologically advanced city. It would raise too many questions. But a drunken fit of rage from the greatest conqueror in history? That's easily dismissed. A human flaw, a blot on an otherwise glorious canvas. They fed Thais the lines, whispered the motivation into her ear, perhaps even amplified her natural desires for revenge with subtle, mind-altering substances derived from the very plants in the Paradise Garden itself, a dark magic woven into the fabric of the feast. She became their unwitting, or perhaps willing, agent, the spark that ignited the inferno of silence, a puppet dancing to a hidden tune. The image of Thais, beautiful and deadly, dancing amidst the flames, now takes on a chilling new dimension in your mind. And Alexander's later remorse, Elias scoffs, a cynical sound that echoes in the vast hall. He supposedly regretted his actions almost immediately, blaming it on drink and Thais's influence. But was it true remorse or a calculated performance, a way to whitewash his role, to distance himself from the more sinister implications? It's entirely possible he was fully aware of the council's true intentions, that he was a willing participant, a powerful pawn in a cosmic game of chess. Or, perhaps more likely, he convinced himself it was an accident, a youthful indiscretion, to shield his own psyche from the enormity of his actions. He was a man obsessed with his own legacy, and being known as a mindless destroyer wouldn't fit the narrative he wished to carve into history, a stain on his otherwise pristine legend. You imagine Alexander, in the cold light of day, wrestling with the memory, fabricating a palatable truth to protect his self-image, a king rewriting his own darkest chapter. This drunken revelry, Elias gestures around the desolate hall, was a sacred ritual of obliteration for the Council of Shadows. The fire was the consuming deity, devouring not just wood and stone, but truth, knowledge, and an alternative future. Every crackling flame was a whispered incantation, every falling timber a seal on a secret. The destruction of Persepolis was not just a military conquest, it was a surgical removal of a cancerous growth, the Persian model of tolerance and advanced knowledge, from the body of human civilization. The air suddenly feels charged with the ghosts of screams and the crackling roar of an ancient fire, a symphony of annihilation. The Council of Shadows operates on a different timeline than mere mortals, my friend, Elias says, his voice now imbued with a chilling certainty. They plan in centuries, not years. The burning of Persepolis was not an isolated incident. It was a crucial step in a much larger, ongoing agenda. By destroying the physical evidence, by twisting the historical narrative, they ensured that the truth about the invisible architects, the Paradise Garden's power, and the sophisticated nomadic network remained buried. They created a historical black hole where critical information simply vanished, swallowed by the maw of their deception. You look out at the ruins, the setting sun casting long, dramatic shadows that dance across the shattered stones, like specters reenacting the fiery doom. The weight of this revelation is almost crushing. The grand conqueror, Alexander, reduced to a mere pawn. The drunken feast, a calculated ritual. The beautiful courtesan, a puppet in a sinister play. It's a story of betrayal on an unimaginable scale. A betrayal not just of a city, but of history itself, of humanity's potential. The taste of dust in your mouth feels like the ashes of forgotten knowledge. So, the truth, you finally manage to say, it was burned away for a reason? Elias nods slowly, his gaze intense. Precisely. But a fire, no matter how fierce, always leaves embers. And some embers still glow, my friend, waiting for the right breath to rekindle the flame of truth. Our next journey will be about finding those embers, about tracking the remnants of this vast conspiracy, and perhaps about understanding what the Council of Shadows truly fears. The silence of the ancient ruins stretches around you, but now it's not a peaceful quiet. It's the pregnant pause before a storm, a silent roar of untold secrets.
Have you ever wondered if the death of a king could be more than just a general's betrayal, but part of a larger game played by unseen hands? Darius III, the last king of Persia, was supposedly murdered by Bessus, one of his own generals. Alexander entered Persepolis without significant resistance, as if the gates were flung wide open, a deadly invitation. Can you feel the cold bite of the blade as it plunges into a back, or the metallic tang of blood in the air, a symphony of an empire's final gasp? This wasn't merely the death of a king. It was a brutal execution, meticulously orchestrated by powers far greater, those who manipulated everything from the shadows, turning the monarch into a pawn sacrificed on a political chessboard. This is a historical murder case where the true killer may have vanished into the darkness unnoticed, like a ghost slipping through the night, leaving an indelible scar. The sun beats down mercilessly on the vast plains where the final act of Darius III's reign unfolded. You stand with Elias on a desolate, wind-swept hill, the silence broken only by the howl of the desert wind, a mournful lament for a fallen king. History tells us that Darius III, fleeing Alexander's relentless pursuit, was betrayed and murdered by his own general, Bessus, a straightforward act of treachery, a desperate attempt by Bessus to gain favor with the conqueror, or perhaps even to seize power for himself. A classic tale of ambition and betrayal, a Shakespearean tragedy played out on a grand scale. You can almost see the panicked retreat, the dust kicked up by fleeing chariots, the desperation etched on the faces of the Persian elite. The metallic scent of ancient weaponry seems to linger in the dry air, a phantom stench of a final desperate battle. But nothing in this story has been straightforward, has it, my friend? Elias turns to you, his eyes narrowed against the glare. We've peeled back layers of deception, revealing hidden architects, a power-generating garden, and a vast, insidious spy network. So why should the death of the last Persian king be any different? The official account is a convenient smokescreen, a theatrical backdrop for a far more sinister play. He gestures to the vast, empty expanse. Darius III's death wasn't a betrayal. It was an assassination, meticulously planned and executed by a third conspirator, the Council of Shadows. The very name now feels like a physical presence, a cold wind whipping across your face, a prickle of unseen eyes upon your skin. A shiver runs down your spine, as if the mere mention of that name has summoned an invisible entity, a cold breath ghosting against your neck here on this desolate hilltop. Think back to Persepolis, Elias urges. Alexander entered the city with surprisingly little resistance. The grand gates, supposedly impregnable, were opened. There were no pitched battles at the gates, no desperate last stand, no blaring trumpets announcing an ambush. It was as if the city had already been prepared for his arrival, a welcoming embrace for its executioner. This wasn't merely the result of a demoralized army. This was a calculated clearing of the path, an orchestrated surrender, a treacherous silence that spoke volumes. You remember the pristine state of the Gate of All Nations when Alexander arrived, too intact for a city supposedly in fierce resistance. The image of the wide-open gates now appears sinister, a gaping maw inviting its own destruction.
The council had a vested interest in the downfall of Darius III. They needed to eliminate the existing Persian leadership, not just for political control, but to seize direct control of the Paradise Garden's power source. Darius, for all his royal grandeur, was nothing more than a pawn on their chessboard, a temporary figurehead. His continued rule, with his independent access to certain ancient knowledge or lineage-based abilities, might have interfered with their long-term plans for the garden. Once Alexander had served his purpose by conquering the empire and initiating the sealing of the garden through the burning of Persepolis, Darius became redundant, a broken toy to be discarded. A slow, simmering rage begins to build within you. A great king reduced to a disposable plaything, a symbol of power transformed into a cheap chess piece. The sheer injustice of it seems to resonate with the very howling winds that whip around you, a collective cry of betrayal from the ages.
So the council engineered his demise, Elias states, his voice devoid of emotion, like a historian reciting grim facts. Bessus, Darius's own general, was either directly coerced, threatened, or manipulated by the council. Perhaps he was promised immense power in return, a short-lived reign as king of Asia, or perhaps his family was held hostage. Bessus was the hand that held the dagger, but the council was the mind that orchestrated the stab, a puppet master pulling a treacherous string. The sheer coldness of this calculation sends a shiver down your spine, a cold touch of ancient malevolence, a chill that seeps into your very bones. Alexander's subsequent pursuit and execution of Bessus, ostensibly to avenge Darius, was not an act of justice or loyalty, Elias reveals, a grim smile playing on his lips. It was the council's final cleanup operation. Bessus was a loose end, a dangerous witness who knew too much. He was the one who personally carried out the assassination, the one who could expose the council's role in the conspiracy. Alexander, whether he fully understood it or not, was their cleaner, their unwitting executioner of inconvenient truths, a living mop wiping away the bloody fingerprints. By bringing Bessus to justice, Alexander unwittingly silenced the last person who could directly implicate the council in Darius's death, burying the secret beneath layers of righteous vengeance. The thought sends a shiver through you. The greatest conqueror of all time, a man revered in history, reduced to a blind tool, a hand stained with blood for purposes he perhaps never fully grasped. The chilling implications of such manipulation make every battle, every heroic epic, feel meaningless, like empty smiles on the face of death. The death of Darius III, Elias concludes, looking out at the vast silent plains where ghosts of empire still ride the wind, was the final piece of the puzzle for the Council of Shadows. With him gone, the ancient Persian bloodline and any inherent knowledge or power associated with it was severed. The Paradise Garden was sealed. The Persepolis library was burned. The nomadic spy network was shattered. All the key elements that represented a potential challenge to their desired world order were neutralized. Alexander, their unwitting tool, completed their grand design, leaving behind a legacy of conquest, while simultaneously paving the way for the council's continued, unseen dominance,
a glorious triumph that concealed a far darker victory. The sheer ruthlessness and meticulousness of this plan send a shiver down your spine. They didn't just want to win a battle. They wanted to seize and shape the entire flow of time, controlling not just what happened, but what was remembered. The wind whips around you, carrying with it the phantom scent of betrayal and forgotten power. You feel a profound sense of disorientation, as if the ground beneath your feet has shifted irrevocably, revealing an abyss of deception. The history you thought you knew, the grand narrative of Alexander's triumph and the fall of Persia, has been utterly dismantled, revealing a terrifying, intricate web of manipulation. The death of Darius III, once a simple footnote of ancient warfare, now screams of a deeper, more chilling conspiracy, a silent howl across millennia. This entire historical period, you realized, was nothing more than a carefully choreographed play, with kings and empires as mere puppets, and the Council of Shadows as the ultimate, unseen playwright, their shadowy figures pulling every string from the wings of history. The implications are staggering. If they manipulated such monumental events in the past, what are they doing now? The question hangs in the air, a heavy, unspoken challenge. This journey has brought you face to face with the architects of history's greatest deceptions, and there's no turning back now. The next journey will surely bring us closer to their true identity.
Do you believe that sometimes destruction is the best way to preserve, like a phoenix reborn from the ashes? Alexander's burning of Persepolis is often seen as a barbaric act, an unnecessary destruction, a stain on his legacy. The fire roared like a hungry demon, devouring everything from colossal columns to intricate reliefs, a ravenous beast consuming history itself. But beneath that chaotic din, can you hear a strange cadence, like an ancient song, a ritual being performed, turning destruction into an act of preservation, a sacred and ruthless ceremony of the Council of Shadows? As you inhale the faint scent of millennia-old smoke, a lingering reminder of a grander purpose, you'll wonder if this was mere coincidence or a long-planned operation, a carefully choreographed act of cosmic theater. The very air in the ruins of Persepolis seems to crackle with the ghostly embers of that ancient conflagration. A heavy, unsettling feeling presses down on your chest as if you're breathing in the very pain and loss of millennia past. You stand with Elias, the wind whispering through shattered archways, carrying the faint, acrid scent of millennia-old ash and charred ambition. Every breath feels like it pulls a piece of history into your lungs, a whisper of buried secrets. The official history paints Alexander as acting in a drunken rage, a moment of reckless abandon, a barbarian's fury unleashed upon a masterpiece. But as we've uncovered, my friend, nothing about this event was accidental. The fire was not an act of pure destruction. It was a meticulously staged sealing ritual, a grand ceremony orchestrated by the Council of Shadows. He gestures to the vast expanse of the ruined city, the sheer scale of the devastation, still breathtaking. The columns of Persepolis, once standing proudly like fingers reaching for the heavens, are now just blackened skeletons, silent witnesses to a fateful event. The council, in their infinite foresight and calculating cruelty, convinced Alexander that this fire was a great sealing,
an act necessary to protect the secrets of Persepolis from the unworthy. He closes his eyes for a moment, as if envisioning the scene. Imagine the whispers in his ear, subtle suggestions, painting the act not as destruction, but as a safeguard. They told him he was preserving the true knowledge, the immense power of the Paradise Garden, the advanced architectural wisdom, by burying it deep beneath the ashes. A heroic sacrifice to protect humanity from itself. A noble lie, cloaking a heinous truth. You can almost hear the seductive allure of those ancient whispers, twisting logic, transforming villainy into virtue.
We spoke of Thais, the beautiful yet deadly courtesan, Elias continues, running a hand over his chin. She wasn't just a fuse. She was a prime example of how the council plants ideas, using human desires and weaknesses to achieve their ends. Perhaps they'd been subtly feeding her the notion of sacred vengeance for a long time, nurturing the fire of hatred within her, making her a sharpened blade in Alexander's hand. And then, at the climax of the feast, when human will was weakest from wine and the exhilaration of victory, they activated her. It wasn't a random fit of madness, it was a perfectly executed post-hypnotic suggestion, a subtle psychological lever pushing Alexander to the brink of destruction. A cold dread creeps up your spine. If the council could control the minds of such pivotal historical figures, what would stop them from doing the same to anyone, at any time? The thought gnaws at your mind like a relentless worm. "And here's the ultimate irony, my friend," Elias says, a grimace touching his lips. "The fire, in a twisted sense, did preserve much of the city. The intense heat fused certain materials, creating a protective shell. The layers of ash and debris that blanketed the city acted as an accidental tomb, shielding much of the lower structures, the hidden tunnels, and the deeper secrets from subsequent erosion and pillaging. What appears to be total devastation was, in part, a perverse act of preservation, a destructive embrace. You look at the blackened stone, picturing the chaos of the blaze, and then the slow, silent embrace of ash, a cloak of oblivion that paradoxically safeguarded what lay beneath. The scrolls, the maps, the intricate tools that Alexander thought he had destroyed were perhaps only partially burned, or pushed deeper into subterranean vaults where the heat couldn't reach them, waiting for a later awakening. The council understood the nature of secrets. They knew that true erasure is impossible. What cannot be destroyed must be contained, and containment, for them, often meant concealment. By presenting the burning as a drunken rampage, they created a historical smokescreen, ensuring that no one would look too closely for a deeper purpose. The physical destruction was a diversion, a magician's trick to draw the eye away from the true act of sealing, a grand illusion for all time. He pauses, his gaze distant, as if peering through millennia of history. Their goal wasn't just to bury technology or philosophy. They wanted to control the collective consciousness of humanity, to shape how we perceive ourselves, our past, and the potential of our future. By eliminating the evidence of a tolerant, advanced Persian civilization, they removed a social model that could challenge the centralized, hierarchical control they wished to establish. It was a psychological war on a grand scale, waged across millennia.
But their seal wasn't permanent, Elias says, his voice dropping, a low thrum of urgency. Nothing truly is, especially when immense power is involved. And this is where our story shifts from ancient history to the very pulse of the present. Recent seismic activity around Persepolis has been unusual, not natural tremors. These are localized, rhythmic vibrations, almost like a giant heartbeat beneath the earth, a mechanical pulse resonating through the bedrock. You feel it more clearly now, a low hum in your bones, not from the wind, but from something powerful, unseen, shifting. It feels like a colossal machine is starting up beneath the Earth's crust, a primordial power stirring from its long confinement. And accompanying these vibrations, there's been an uptick in strange, unidentifiable radiation readings. Not dangerous levels, but anomalies that shouldn't exist in such a geologically stable area. A faint, ghostly glow on our scientific instruments. Elias pulls out his phone, the screen displaying a strange, oscillating graph. This is data from one of our covert satellites. These blinking red dots aren't interference. They're signatures of an energy release, a pressure building from deep within the Earth. You stare at the screen, a chill running down your spine. It's not just a graph, it's the heartbeat of an awakening monster, a deathly rhythm of history repeating itself. You feel it now, unmistakably, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor beneath your feet, a low hum that resonates in your chest. It's subtle, like the vibration from a distant, heavy machine, but undeniable. The hairs on your arms stand on end. "What is it?" you ask, your voice barely a whisper, a plea for understanding in the face of the inexplicable. "A sign," Elias answers, his eyes alight with a dangerous excitement, like an explorer who's just found a lost treasure map. A warning bell. It suggests that the secrets sealed by Alexander's fire are beginning to stir. Either the Council of Shadows is attempting to reactivate the Paradise Garden's power source to tap into it for some modern purpose, or, perhaps more frighteningly, someone else is attempting to break their seal, to release what they so meticulously buried. The invisible energies are waking up, a slumbering beast stretching its limbs beneath the earth. The ground beneath you shivers again, a little stronger this time, a silent roar from the depths. You feel as if you were standing on the very lip of a volcano, poised to erupt. This isn't just a historical curiosity anymore, my friend, Elias emphasizes, his gaze sweeping over the ancient ruins, a battlefield where past and present collide, where millennia-old secrets are coming alive. This is a live situation, my friend. The call from the ashes we've been hearing throughout this journey is becoming literal. The mechanisms put in place millennia ago, those ancient circuits of power and control, are being reactivated. The destruction of Persepolis, the drunken act of Alexander, the betrayal of Darius III, all of it was part of a grand design to contain a power that is now threatening to break free. We are standing on the precipice of a momentous event where the past could very well ignite the future, a spark ready to set the world ablaze.
The low tremor intensifies slightly, a persistent vibration that travels up your legs, humming in your bones. The air feels thicker, charged, almost electric. You can taste the dust and the ghost of smoke, but now there's something else too. A faint, almost imperceptible metallic tang, reminiscent of the Paradise Garden, but sharper, more urgent. It's the scent of energy, of something ancient and powerful stirring beneath the surface, a sleeping giant beginning to awaken. Your heart pounds faster, a feeling both of dread and fascination warring within you. The Council of Shadows tried to control not just what was known, but what was forgotten, Elias says, his voice now filled with grim determination. But oblivion itself has a power, and when a secret is too grand, too potent to be buried, it will find a way to resurface, to seek the light. That is the natural law of energy. And we, my friend, are here to witness that resurgence, and to ensure that it is released correctly, not to serve the Council's agenda. Elias turns to you, his eyes deep and resolute. This journey has taken us from the whispers of history to the vibrations of the present. We have touched the truth, and it is calling to us. We cannot ignore that call. The next journey promises to take us directly to the source of these unsettling tremors, to the very heart of what the Council of Shadows tried so desperately to keep buried. He extends his hand, as if inviting you to step into a new, perilous realm. Prepare yourself. We will not merely be seeking answers, we will be confronting an ancient power, an entity that has been confined for millennia. Are you ready to witness the rebirth of an ancient power and face the consequences of disturbing a millennia-old secret, when we ourselves could become the spark for a revolution or a global catastrophe?
Have you ever felt as if the shattered fragments of a broken mirror suddenly coalesced, reflecting a completely different image of reality? After a journey through millennia of dust and deceit, what you found in the clay tablets, in every architectural line, in the whispers of legend, is now crystallizing into a terrifyingly complete picture. Persepolis isn't merely a burned city. It's a treasure trove of buried truths, a colossal jigsaw puzzle where each terrifying piece reveals a shocking secret. You feel an electric current course through your spine as disparate fragments click into place, forming a coherent image, not of the history we were taught, but of a history concealed, distorted, and sealed by the invisible hand of the Council of Shadows. Every scorch mark, every stone slab, every whisper from the past recounts a tale of a millennium-long conspiracy, an unseen thread connecting past to present. The air in Persepolis now hums with a subtle, almost imperceptible energy, a latent power vibrating beneath the earth, a ghostly heartbeat from the depths. Elias, his face etched with the intensity of a man who has stared into the abyss of history and returned, stands before you. What you see around you, my friend, is not just the remains of a glorious civilization. It is the physical manifestation of a grand deception, a monument to a stolen past. The clay tablets from the treasury, we now know, held encoded knowledge of the invisible architects, schematics hinting at advanced technologies beyond their time, systems that could harness energy, manipulate perception. The architecture itself, with its impossible precision, was not just human ingenuity, but the application of an ancient science, a lost art of harnessing resonant frequencies, making buildings themselves functional components of a vast energetic system. And the Paradise Garden? More than just a symbol, it was a living power plant, a bioelectrical engine generating consciousness-altering energies, a forbidden battery of the soul. The nomadic lifestyle, the Persian carpets with their hidden fractal geometries, the bizarre merchants, these formed a vast, sophisticated intelligence network, a whisper net spanning the empire. It was a system so deeply embedded it became its own vulnerability, a vibrant nervous system poisoned from within. Then came the fall. The mysterious death of Darius III was no mere betrayal, but an assassination orchestrated by the Council of Shadows. Darius was a pawn, disposable once his position no longer served their purpose. And Alexander? He became the cleaner, the unwitting tool who eliminated the witness, Bessus, ensuring the council's hand remained unseen, a puppet dancing on bloody strings. The burning of Persepolis was not a drunken act of vandalism. It was the Council of Shadows' great sealing, a ritualistic destruction designed to bury these secrets, neutralize the Paradise Garden's power, and rewrite history. The fire was a purification, a ceremonial sacrifice of information, ensuring that knowledge challenging their burgeoning world order would be forgotten, obscured by smoke and lies. They turned a historical event into an act of cosmic censorship, a grand bonfire of truth. All these threads, my friend, Elias says, his voice ringing with grim certainty, weave together into one terrifying conclusion. The Council of Shadows was the ultimate manipulator, the unseen hand guiding the destiny of empires. They controlled Darius, they molded Alexander, they engineered the fall of Persepolis not just to conquer territory, but to control knowledge, technology, and the very narrative of history. The fall of Persia was their blueprint for a new world order, a chilling precedent for global control.
The chilling implication resonates within you. Their fingerprints are still all over the modern world, in secretive organizations, in geopolitical decisions that defy logic, in suppressed technologies. They are still here, perpetuating their grand design. But their seal is beginning to crack, Elias states, a glint of defiance in his eyes. The anomalous seismic vibrations, the unidentifiable radiation from beneath Persepolis, these are not random. They are tremors of an awakening, a sign that the energy, the knowledge buried so deeply, is trying to break free. Persepolis is not dead, my friend. It is merely dormant. It is waiting. It is stirring from its millennia-long slumber. The very ground beneath your feet seems to hum in agreement, a silent chorus of awakening power. Elias turns to you, his gaze intense, a burning ember of conviction. You have journeyed into the heart of this conspiracy, heard the whispers, felt the tremors. You are privy to a truth the Council of Shadows has worked millennia to conceal. The call from the ashes is no longer an echo, it is a direct summons. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you let history remain distorted, a carefully constructed lie? Or will you continue to seek the truth, to brave the dangers that the Council of Shadows will undoubtedly throw your way? He extends his hand, a gesture of invitation to a perilous path. The next journey promises to take us directly to the source of these unsettling tremors, to the very heart of what the Council of Shadows tried so desperately to bury. Are you ready to face the consequences of disturbing a millennia-old secret, when we ourselves could become the spark for a revolution or a global catastrophe? Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through the shadows of history. Your presence, your curiosity,
lights up the darkest corners of forgotten truths. If this odyssey into the heart of ancient conspiracies has captivated your mind, then illuminate our path forward. Like this story, subscribe to our channel for more untold narratives, and share your own insights in the comments below. Until our next revelation, keep questioning, keep searching.